How do you memorize your presentation? That's the topic of today's episode. It's episode 26 of Unlock Speaking Confidence with me, Maureen McCown. And clients very often ask me that question, how do I memorize the presentation? How am I possibly going to remember all of this? I'm going to take you through some techniques and some tips today to help you with that. First of all, some of you might know my background was teaching. I was a secondary school or high school teacher for many years, teaching Irish and French. So languages that had an oral exam component. And when preparing students for the oral exam, they would have the preparation, they would write out their answers, it would be corrected and so on. But the goal was never that they learn that off by heart or learn it off by rote. Because when we learn something off by rote, we're stuck into what that is. And if we lose our concentration, if in an oral exam situation the examiner interrupts you and asks you a question and you're thrown off this recitation of what you're after learning off, then it completely throws your confidence. So it's far better, rather than learning your presentation by heart, that you are familiar with it, that you internalize it. And that internalization comes about from the very beginning. It's when you are back doing your preparation. So as you are preparing and you're putting your structure around your content, all of that is helping to embed the ideas in your mind. And it's an area that I constantly spend a lot of time talking about, and I also have videos on YouTube and blog posts written about the topic, how best to prepare for your presentation. So you're starting with that point and you're creating your really clear structure, your structured approach where you know what your opening is going to be. You know what your main points are going to be, typically 3 main points, how you're going to develop those. And in a normal casual conversation that you will be able to talk about and to discuss those points. Then you know that you're internalizing what your presentation is going to be. So you've got your work done. If it is a more important type of one, I would suggest scripting it out. Otherwise, just keeping to the main points that you know what you're going to talk about. And after that, it depends on what your preferred learning style is as to the best way for you to memorize it. So if you're somebody who is visual, for example, a really useful technique can be to imagine that you are walking into your house or into a particular room in your house. So for example, you're walking into the kitchen, and on different locations in the kitchen, you visualize different words or phrases that will help to remind you of each point. So you might take a look at the first thing that you see is your fridge, and you can visualize one of the key words from your opening on a fridge magnet. You can see that there. It helps to solidify that thought in your mind. And then you move around to maybe the kitchen cupboard, onto the window, onto the cooker, onto the table. You decide where things are, and that you're mentally placing keywords or phrases on different locations. And for visual learners, that can be a really good way to help to remind you of what the different points are. If you are more auditory focused, then listening is going to be your best friend. So record yourself on your phone and listen to it back as you're driving around, as you're doing different tasks that you've got going around in the background, and that it's helping you to internalize what it is that you're hearing. And then if you are more of the kinesthetic type of doing person, well then put on those earphones and go for a walk and listen to it and practice it as you're going for a walk, and that will help you to remember it. And also, if you need to have notes on the day, try to keep them to 1 page if possible, and even better if it's a postcard size. I like using a spider diagram type of effect. So I have my key theme or the title of the speech in the center, and then I've got all of the arms coming out from that. So typically in the 1 o'clock position, I might put down a key word that I need to remember, and similarly for the 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and different elements that are there. You could color code it so that it's easy. If you've got your notes there beside you and you take a quick glance down at your notes and it's color coded and you're familiar with where everything is, you're just reminding yourself that you're on track. A very discreet way of having your notes with you. If there are particular elements that you want to make sure that you remember, or that you have difficulties remembering, make sure that you have got those written down for easy access. So for me, it could be dates, for example. I'm not great at remembering dates. Though if it was an important date that needed to be included as part of my presentation and I wanted to make sure that I had it right when I was saying it, I'd have that written down very discreetly, a quick check, quick glance, and I know that I'm back on track. And all of these things will help with your confidence as well when you're delivering. If you're overly relying on memory, you're not focusing on who's listening to you. You're not focusing on making that connection. So forget about learning by heart, learning by rote. Instead, internalize what it is that you're going to say. Those tips there should help you. Use what suits your preferred learning style. And if you're not sure what your learning style is, test out the different ways and see which is the most effective for you. This is Maureen from Soft Skills Success, and this has been episode 26 of how to learn, internalize, become familiar with your presentation.